Friday. As Delilah used to say, she probably still does. I don't know if that's anything I've ever talked. Oh no, I must have talked about this. It was a big part of my radio career to be the producer of Love Songs with Delilah from 7 p.m. till midnight. I must have talked about that. Or 7 p.m. to 11. 7 to 11? I don't think it ended at midnight. I think it ended at 11. I'm pretty sure. Shoot. It's been so long, but a lot of that show shaped the way I react to like time and timing, and after God, it was my first stint was like 2 years producing, because she I guess for those that don't know, Frankenbones, by the way, this is the last one that I bought. It almost smells more pistachio than mustachio with this combination of chocolate and hazelnut. It's actually very fascinating and delicious. Hello, Indy. I went outside. We had a hell of a rainstorm last night. I was just downstairs playing, and the camera out front started going crazy, and I'm like, what's going on? And then I opened the camera app, and the camera was just being pelted with rain. You couldn't, I mean, the reason it was going off for motion is because it was all motion all over the lens. It was absolutely nuts. It was all westerly blowing too. It was just crazy. So that was interesting. Anyway, so Delilah, for those that don't know, I believe she's out of the Washington state area. She's a syndicated show. She does a lot of different formats. Sometimes it's hard to tell which are live segments and which aren't, because there's a lot of pre-recorded stuff going on. Probably while they're handling phone calls, because it's a phone-in love song show that's syndicated nationwide. Or at least it was. There was a point where it stopped. A very tragic and unfortunate point where it stopped. But that was after I had stopped producing the show. And I think a little bit after when Sunny 95 took her off of the air due to wanting to put on local programming and stuff like that. So, I need a thingy. Oh, that smells so good. Oops. I dropped a bean. Oh dear. Well, we won't. No bean left behind, my friend. Absolutely not. No bean left behind. I'm pretty sure that was one. That's probably one of the. No, it was this one, the Ethiopia one. Oh well. I hate when it does that. It's not grinding together, it's just kind of vibrating, I think, because there's particles stuck in spots, I think. So, yeah, so she's a syndicated show. She was out of the upper Northwest states. Syndication, by the way, if that's not something you're familiar with either, popular stuff, and I'm just going to bring up these names because they're what I know, like Bob and Tom in the morning. Opie and Anthony used to be a show, shock jocks that were on morning shows. Howard Stern used to be a syndicated radio show on broadcast radio. Stuff like that. So it's like that kind of a show. Casey Kasem. Casey Kasem was a syndicated show. Rick Dees in the Weekly Top 40. Those are Shadow Stevens, for those that are as old as I am. Those are all syndicated shows that were broadcast to a wide audience. Well, Delilah Love Songs with Delilah, or Delilah After Dark, was one of those type of syndicated shows. And it was my first job in radio to produce it, because back in like 1999, 2000, 2001, they had the ability to remotely make local commercials start playing. This is a weird, long, convoluted thing. So if you're not into radio, coffee will be in a couple minutes. And I'm trying to just explain it as I would explain it to somebody that has never existed in the radio sphere before. When I worked for the Blitz, I was the backup producer, morning show producer for Howard Stern, the local affiliate, the Blitz, here in Columbus, for the 2 years that I worked there. I think it was about the time Howard started screaming about going to satellite. At the very beginning of that, or maybe middle of that. Definitely not the end of that. They had a way to send a signal via satellite down to a computer if you have it set up in the radio station, so that there really wouldn't have to be a producer there pushing buttons. We would call it a tone. So they would send a tone down the line, and it would start local commercials, because the way the show worked, there were 3 commercial breaks. I think 20, 35, and 50. And they would air 2 30-second commercials from the national side, and then the rest of the time could be national commercials because they backfed that through the line as well, or local commercials. And we would always have local commercials because we would always sell those local commercials. So maybe it was like 4 minutes of commercials was the time that was allotted for the show on all 3 of those slots, because it was all in a clock. But at the time, they had money, so they felt they didn't want this because it was a 3-station group, I think, at the time, because it was WSNY, WJZA, which was a jazz station, and then it was an AM station, and 15 something. No, was it 15 something? I don't remember. It was WVKO. That was the 1580. It was WVKO, and it was a gospel station. So they had 3 radio stations at the time while I was there, and then they adopted WODB, which was an oldie station. They played a lot of Beatles. So because all of those stations were running, and Sunny was the only one really, I mean, they were manned during the day, but in the evening, they really didn't have any DJs in the evening and through midnight. So they wanted somebody in the building that could take care of an emergency in case something happened. And things happened. So they really wanted to make sure things didn't happen. And I think it might have been at the time an FCC regulation where you had to have somebody in the building. Especially if, like, we had a tower in the back that was an emergency broadcast tower in case the one at WBNS went down. So, because that's where I think we broadcasted our signal from, was WBNS. If something were to happen, like a light would go off at the top of the tower that was behind the radio station, someone would have to log it because it was tall enough to be potentially a flight hazard. So if for some reason the light at the top of the tower were to fail, it would need to be logged, and the FCC would need to be called, and like coordinates would have to be given of the tower being out. And there was even a clipboard where every couple hours, at least when we logged on for our shift, we would have to sign our name for a tower log to make sure that the tower in the back, the light was on. We had to do that. And that's weird because that just came back to me that was something that we did. Having somebody at the station at the time was a necessity. So automating Delilah, but then hiring somebody to sit there and make sure everything was running properly and not doing anything seemed silly. So they saved money by not opting for the digital service that would automatically activate commercials. And that was not reliable because WODB B1079 would have an evening show that was syndicated as well. And they did have tones that fired because no one sat there. So somebody somewhere else would hit a button and then it would feed a tone down and then activate our local commercials. Sometimes that didn't happen. That happened a couple of times on the the midnight to 5 a.m. ladies shift. She sometimes would just ignore the other stations, and then and it would just happen to be when I would have to come in and help produce the morning show because someone was off. So I was the backup producer for the Sunday morning show for my time when I was there. And I would come in and then I would check the stations and I'd be like, why 450? Why is the syndicated show still running? And then I'd go and I'd look and I'm like, oh my God, not a single solitary local commercial went all night long because a tone misfired and the station kept playing. And when the station, when that particular satellite station stopped live broadcast, it would replay the show for different time zones. So it would replay the show. And so the show was still playing when I got there at like, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I remember the day that I had to, or the morning that I had to reorganize a ton of commercials, remove a bunch of songs because there were commercials that had to play before 5 a.m. Otherwise, they wouldn't pay for those commercials. So there were like 8-minute commercial breaks, 2 minutes worth of songs, and then 8-minute commercial breaks. So, and it was in the morning. So the commercials played. I actually got a Employee of the Month award for saving their bacon. I don't know if I would assume that she probably got reprimanded somehow, but I don't know. She wasn't, she was a really good on-air personality and she was a nice person. It's just that midnight to 5 a.m. slot where she was actually a DJ, DJing the show. DJ as in on-air personality, not DJ as in spinning records and mixing them together. There was all on CD at that point. Anyway, I just went to a DJ show a couple weeks ago, so I've got records spinning in my mind when it comes to DJs. So, but anyway, so yeah, So it was vital back at that point in the late 90s, early 2000s to have someone in the station at all times to make sure things happened properly. Because if they didn't happen properly, ad revenue, that could cost someone their job if commercials didn't play. The songs didn't matter, it was the commercials that they sold. That's what mattered. You can hear the same song generally every day played sometimes, depending on how the program director was feeling that day. So yeah, Delilah. So I was there and I would hit buttons. And when it was a commercial break, I'd let her 2 30-second commercials play, and then I would bring her audio down on the board and then hit our commercials that were on our computer. So, and then if there were any local drops where she said, you're listening to Delilah, and then if you heard like on Sunny 95, that was something I physically touched on a screen. And there were like 4 of them that would circulate. So it didn't sound like the exact same one every time. She had different inflections. And there were a couple of them for a couple different places that I could put in. But yeah, so all of that back in the late 90s, early 2000s, that all was done by hand. And it helped, helped me with learning timing and learning how clocks could really be utilized for a lot of different things. And, and then, the morning show that I did, backup produced, also helped me with all that stuff because all of that was timed out. So, but yeah, so, for a stretch of time, I produced the Love Songs with Delilah, or Delilah After Dark. And she had like 3 different versions of the show. She had the love songs with the requests. And then she actually had a Christian show that she also did, but it's hard to tell. I don't know how they did their phones because people would call in and do dedications. I did a dedication once just to see what would happen because I was curious. And it was like 3 songs later, my dedication actually went through. I called the actual hotline. I didn't call like a secret number. I was actually able to call in using the nationwide number and got through and was able to do a dedication. It was actually fascinating. And that went through, and it happened really quick. So I don't know. Segments are weird. The segments were weird, and she certainly couldn't do both that. Well, I guess she could. Maybe that's what a lot of her time was spent doing. Maybe a lot of it was automated, but the calls were not automated, but pre-recorded, some of it maybe, or maybe recorded like 10 minutes ahead of time, you know, because it's basically just inserting you talking in front of a song, you know. So, and the theater of the mind that is radio.
Okay. I'll play some songs like that.
Hey Siri, stop. She thought I was talking to her. I hope that didn't turn off. I hope that didn't turn off the camera. Okay, sorry about that. She activates. She just activates random words. Random words activator. I don't get it. I didn't say her name. It's very strange. It's like, I don't need you to play that, please. I'm good. Maybe later. Maybe later we can do that. Hazelnut, chocolate, fantastic. Definitely one of my top favorite. I think I've said it before. I'll say it again. Top 3 favorite. Delicious. Coffees that Bones comes out with. Nuttiness, creaminess. The chocolate is pronounced, so there's a little bit of sweetness and bitterness at the same time. Not artificially sweetened, just flavored. Boy, oh my gosh. And then the finish, you just get this wonderful hazelnut finish. It's so good. This is great. I love this coffee. It's so good. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I know I've talked about it before, but you know, we're over 300. I think over 350 episodes since I started this in 2023, February of 2023, when I was laid off. And on a whim, I'm like, you know what? I can't just sit here. I need to talk. I need to talk about it. And talking about it has helped a great deal. So I appreciate you coming along the journey with me. Next week, there might be 2 coffees. There's definitely going to be one on Tuesday, but just a heads up, it's going to be about prep. It's going to be about prep for a colonoscopy. So just heads up on that, because that's the thing. That's the thing that's going to happen on the Wednesday, which means there's not going to be a coffee on the Wednesday. Thursday, depending on how I feel, there might be a coffee. There's not going to be any game streaming next week at all. So, and I'm still debating on whether I want to do a stream tonight, because there's a street fair thing happening downtown Westerville today at like 4 o'clock. I was thinking about driving down, parking far away, and then walking down to it and seeing what's what down there. I think that might not be a bad idea, just to get out of the house. But it's like from 4 to 8. So if I come home, you know, around 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, I could probably hop on and stream. I don't know why not. There's nothing holding me back. But Frankenbones, if you like hazelnut, if you like chocolate, if you like both of them, it is definitely a surprisingly delicious coffee. All the bitterness that you want from a medium roast, but just the hazelnut is just shines all the way through. Yeah, that is one of my favorite coffees, definitely. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what, I mean, that whole thing where we had to sign off on the tower every night just popped back into my head. I remember the brown clipboard. I don't know if the tower's still back there. I know a lot of that was donated to Upper Arlington for a park. I don't know a lot of people that still work there. A lot of my dear friends have left. There are a couple of friends that work there, but I haven't had touch base with them in a long time. I don't know any of the DJs because I think all of the DJs have either been asked to retire or are somewhere else now selling cars. So good for them. They'll probably make a ton more money, and hopefully it won't be nearly as stressful as having to perform without cursing for several hours, especially nowadays. So we'll be back next week on Tuesday, the Definitely Show on Tuesday. We'll be talking about prep. My no leafy greens, no nuts, no fruit with skin or seeds. There's several other things that I am not supposed to have. No fiber, and no supplements with fiber or iron in them, which luckily I made sure that when I bought my supplements, they don't have any iron in them because men really don't need iron. And there's no fiber in it because if I want fiber, I've got fiber supplements up there that I can take that I can just add to water if I need that. But no fiber, none of that stuff. Prep starts today. And pizza is not on the list. I didn't get to pizza yesterday. I aggravated myself because it was around noon and I'm like, God, you know what? I'm a little hungry. I should really eat something. I shouldn't go all day without eating. So I put some Kirkland chicken nuggets in the air fryer. Apparently I made too many because after I was done, I'm like, wow, I don't want to eat anything ever again. And I didn't eat anything for the rest of the day. So yeah, now I am hungry. So we'll probably do a noon pizza run and then just have that the rest of the day and then see what's down there at 4 o'clock, 4:30. I'm hoping for a lot of cookies and cakes and baked things. I'm dying for a good pumpkin spice cake. I'm also really wanting like an apple pie of some sort. So I'm hoping fall stuff happens at some of the vendors. So we'll see. Maybe I'll get some coffee too if it's down there. We'll talk to you next week. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a great Friday to start with, I guess. But then may it go into the weekend. May your sports team win. And if they don't win, I hope they lose spectacularly. We will see you later. Bye.